is called Boots on the Ground, a grassroots tale of neighbors stepping up and into Pete Buttigieg's presidential run. It chronicles all of the grassroots work that led to his historic win in Iowa. And I found it to be a brilliant how-to manual for anyone who wants to take their first steps into grassroots activism, because the author, Lisa Fleishman, she didn't know how to do it. She had no idea what she was doing. She simply threw herself in wholeheartedly on behalf of Pete Buttigieg and just learned as she went along. And luckily, she has an amazing memory and chronicled it exceedingly well. Here she is, Lisa Fleishman. How are you? Live from Iowa.
Hey.
You're in Carlisle, Iowa? Is that where you are?
Yes. So I am a small town blue collar business owner, former Republican, and I was a first time volunteer for Team Pete. So it was an unlikely story, certainly for me personally, but I think that my story is not unique at all.
Well, it's certainly a story that warrants a book, and I really loved the book. It's not just what you did, it's the way you describe that the people that you met along the way and how they influenced you and they inspired you. And that's before we even get to you meeting Pete. In the book, you chronicle it as you were a little red-faced.
Oh, I was praying to any deity that might answer to just open up the ground and swallow me whole. Just get me out of there. When I walked up to him, I offered out my hand. I was like, "Hey, Mayor Pete, how we doing today?" He's like, "Doing good. How are you doing?" And and instead of saying something like, "I'm okay," I said, "You're a lot taller than I thought you'd be." And the second I said it, I just wanted to die.
It's got to be one thing to support a candidate, to go all in for the candidate, to learn so much about them and where they stand on issues. You don't often expect that you're going to meet them, but I imagine if you're in the state of Iowa, you
Mhm.
meet them quite often. You have the opportunity. Everybody flocks to Iowa.
In Iowa, there's a saying, if you haven't met the president of the United States, it's because you didn't want to. I mean, and that's reality. That's
Absolutely.
reality. There is an expectation that the retail aspects of all of these campaigns, that you're going to be able to meet the candidates. And so I figured at some point I'd get to, but I didn't expect it to happen like that.
And you mentioned that you were a Republican prior to, it was like all your life Republican. Pete Buttigieg is the dividing line, and now moving forward as a Democrat. What kind of Republican were you? Were you as politically active with Republicans as you were with Pete?
Oh no, I'd never been involved other than like meeting whatever senators and presidents, at the grocery store, right? I grew up in an evangelical conservative house. That's how I grew up. And so it wasn't, I mean, I was just on autopilot
Mhm.
until the day I wasn't. Once I really took a look at what was happening in 2016, when I understood the importance of it, when I understood how far of a right the Republican Party had taken, and I took a look at myself and I was like, wait a second, that's not me. Wait, that's never been who I am. And so I said, well, I've got to make a change. I've got to do something. Um, I didn't know how to do it. I had no idea of how I was going to get involved, but I just knew that it was so important that I did.
I think you speak for a lot of people in 2016 who were sort of go with the flow as far as politics was concerned. I was one of those people, which is why I relate so much to what's in this book. Can you talk a little bit about when you first remember hearing his name for the first time or hearing him speak, or what made you a Pete fan where you thought, I'm all in?
So I was actually sitting in this little meager office, and I was reading the news, and I saw this really, really critical headline about some dude from Indiana who had dared, dared to go on Fox News. And the other candidates at the time who were better funded, better known, juggernauts of organizations had chosen not to do so. And I thought to myself, well, who is this rebel? Who is this guy? I'd never heard of him before, never had. And so I took one for the team. I watched that Fox News town hall and I was just blown away by the guy. What I saw in the Buttigieg campaign and in that messaging was something that I felt to be very true in my heart, which was if we do not become the reunited States of America, if we don't give people a sense of belonging, if we don't tell people the truth, if we don't tell people what they need to hear rather than what they want to hear, we're in big trouble. And so that campaign just spoke truth to me. And so even though here I was this former Republican, um, they never treated me like I was some kind of pariah. They never gave me the side eye.
Hmm.
That never happened.
How did the campaign use you right off the bat? What did they want you to do?
So my very first tour was what they call supporter housing. You open your home as a free B&B to a campaign worker, and that saves a cash-strapped campaign
Mhm.
money.
Yeah.
It allows the worker to have a safe place to lay their head at night, um, and go out and do what they need to do, particularly in the early stages of campaign. Uh, so that's initially what I did, and that was what I said. That was all I could do, right? I tossed a couple bucks in the hat. I was having strangers crash on my couch,
That's a
and I
lot.
said, that's what I can do. So yeah, I mean, they always phrase it. And after a while, I started to laugh. Hey, Lisa, could you do us just a tiny favor, just a tiny one? And I'd be like, I mean, because Iowa nice is a thing, right? That's culturally who we are, right? And then the first big ask happened. And that was, hey, we don't have an office. Could we come to your house and make phone calls? Could we do that? And I was like, oh man, I don't know. Okay, sure, man, if that helps you out. If that helps you out.
Knowing that Iowa Nice is a thing, you started heading out knocking on doors.
Yes.
And you had to, I'm sure, contend with a lot of Trump supporters. You've got a story in the book about the Trump flag. You were walking up to a farmstead and you saw the Trump flag waving in the air. I would have run the other way. You didn't do that. Can you talk a little bit about how that exchange went down? Was it two dudes fixing their truck out front or working on their truck?
Yeah, they were working on their car. And and so I thought, well, you know what though? What are they going to do? Take away my birthday? What are they going to do? I'm going to go up, I'm going to knock on that door. I'm going to talk to them about our shared values. I'm going to talk to them about why they need to come with us and support our guy. And if they like it, great. Then there's a seat at the table for them. And if they don't like it, what did I do? Waste 2 minutes of my life? And I got to say hello to my neighbors. So I was never, ever afraid of going and talking to Trump supporters, ever.
That I think is my favorite moment in the book, where you had the guts to go talk to these people, knowing full and well in advance where they stood. And you found enough common ground that they were willing at least to point you in the right direction to recruit people who might be right for Pete.
Right. I mean, one of the things I think that's important about, and it doesn't even matter with a political campaign or if you're trying to do something in your community for a charity or whatever cause it is that if you can have that piece of common ground, the next step is to invite them to help you go out and make that goal happen. And I think that's something that's really critically missing,
Yeah,
right?
in any way that they can, or in any way that they want to.
Exactly, exactly. Of, hey, neighbor, I need your help. Help me out. Help me. We agree on this. So help me make this happen. And that gives people a real sense of ownership.
Mhm.
That gives people a real sense of purpose. It's the whole attaboy, right? There's some of that going on too. But I think that if you miss those opportunities, if you blind yourself to the whole idea that they'll never understand me, or they'll never understand my mission or my organization or my whatever, if you blind yourself to that, you are really shutting off opportunities all over the place. And so that was a lesson for me of, oh, hey, wait, of course I'm gonna enthusiastically talk to Trump supporters because they're gonna know all the local gossip.
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna invite them to come with me. Just for a night. Just come with me for a night. Um, and that was a very, very successful strategy.
I think that's a really good point. I think a lot of people who've not done what you did in their minds imagine it as, I have to go out there and convince these people to support and vote for Pete Buttigieg. When I discovered that I was most successful in just sharing my own story about why I liked Pete Buttigieg, and knowing I had passed that information along to somebody else who may not even know of him. It's not about compelling somebody to change their political mindset. It's just about putting a seed there for them that may grow into something later. And was that sort of similar to what your directive was?
And it wasn't like the campaign ever said, "Hey, go out and proselytize to Republicans,"
Right.
right?
But I think a lot of
I
people
mean,
who never volunteered imagine that's what it is, and it really isn't.
it isn't. It isn't. It's, hey, you agree on this thing. I agree on this thing. Let's go agree on this thing together and make it happen.